Okay, go ahead and start her up.
All right, one battery's already dead on this.
Perfect. That's great.
Do you have a timer thing ready to go?
Yeah, okay, here, let me get that going here. We'll just do a stopwatch. You ready? You gonna hit record?
Yep.
All right, I'm rolling right now on the stopwatch. Stopwatch is rolling.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, everybody.
Oh, we're up. We're live.
We got live.
We got there. We got the computer over here this time and the camera right there, so y'all can be confused by what we're looking at. Let's see here. We are going to be doing some podcasting today. It's been a couple weeks because I've been working. So
Same. Yeah.
yeah, and it's Oscar season, so we're going to jam about that a little bit on the cast today. But we appreciate you tuning in. If anybody's out there, shoot us a comment so we can respond to it. Anyways, we're going to roll on this podcast.
There you go. Yeah, you want to go ahead and do the
Intro here?
the honors of the intro?
Yeah. Are we supposed to have like a red frame on that? Is that what you said? How do we know it's rolling?
I mean, yeah.
Is there, in case it does die on us?
I thought there was a red thing, but that might be on the black magic.
Technical stuff, y'all. We're just checking in to see how easy it's going to be for us to know. We do have a timer, though, so was it 24 minutes?
29, so if we hit,
Yeah.
27-minute mark.
We'll be good. Cool. All right. Well,
I'll just stop and start recording. We just finished that.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, let's get rolling. Let me get this intro going. All right. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to The Rat's Nest. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Sean.
We are here to talk to you guys about some film stuff today. It is Oscar season, so we kind of wanted to get into what that means for us, really, honestly, and and also kind of bridge to other stuff we enjoy. So, Sean, what does Oscar season mean to you? Like, what do you, like, how many of these films are you chasing down to watch every single season? Like, what?
I mean, yeah. It used to mean a lot. Like, Marty and I used to do, like, the Lyric used to host, like, Oscar night. I think they still do.
No, they do. They did it last weekend, too.
I used to go to all of those and, like, just be, like, totally into it. But, for some reason, it's kind of like, I don't know. The joy of it has kind of faded off for me a little bit.
What do you think that is? Do you think it's the films? Is it just something that...
No, I think it's like the ceremony itself to me. Like, a lot of the films I do really want to see.
Yeah.
And this year there's a lot of really good films. Like, I mean, I know you saw Dune.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Alien. And
Alien, yeah.
I watched Flow the other night and was, like, blown away by that.
I still gotta watch it.
But, like, I think just the overall, like, pageantry and, like, the celebrating celebrity thing just got old to me, like Marty and I used to love the pregame of, like, all the wardrobe and, like, who's wearing who and all that kind of stuff, and now I'm just like, I feel like I have better things to do. like no shame to, like, the films that are being played, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I mean, to kind of echo that too is, I mean, it gets to a point as someone who enjoys film as well, that you're constantly playing catch up watching watching movies.
Yeah.
Like, you're constantly chasing them down. Like, for instance, like, for every Oscar film that someone probably watches, I'd probably watch like 25 films that they've probably never heard of to just kind of chase down, like, films that I'm behind on. I was born in 1986. There's, 40 plus years of good movies that you could just be watching. So, I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Like, I'll catch up with the Oscar season when I do, and I also get, like, feedback from friends who have watched a lot of films that I trust their opinion on, and they'll be like, "Oh, those are the 3 that you probably want to see."
Right.
I like the idea of, like, the films that kind of float to the top over the years, instead of, like, chasing down new films to make your own judgment on whether it's good or not. I feel like the zeitgeist is kind of how I judge it. Like, if there's a bunch of people that, like, think this is, like, a really good underground film, I'm like, ooh, I really want to watch that. It's like there's some films like that.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like a lot of the movies that we like, our aesthetic, don't make it to the Oscars.
I think that might be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, like, I do love a good big blockbuster.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't say that, like, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes was my favorite movie from last year. Like, Dune is pretty pretty close. And like Romulus, pretty good.
Well, it's like it's fine when they're doing some sci-fi stuff for us nerds, but that only happens probably, I'd give it like every 10 years. Like I think the last time it really happened was Interstellar and like The Martian, literally like in 2014 or 2013 when that happened.
Yeah,
is when we were all like, oh my god.
That hard science
Right.
or sci-fi era. But
Yeah, well, you were talking about The Creator earlier too, and did that win anything? Was it last year?
it was nominated, but it didn't win. It lost to -1 Godzilla.
Oh, -1. That's right. Did
Which
you see -1?
Yeah, I did, and I actually didn't. I liked the effects of The Creator a lot more. I didn't think the -1 was all that interesting.
Do you think it has to do with like how you're wanting to do sci-fi's in that realm?
No,
Or-
I just wasn't like super. They're like, oh my god, this is the best CG. I'm like, that was fine, but maybe because I watched it at home and didn't watch it on like the big screen, like I missed
Shame
it.
on you,
I
Sean.
missed
Have you not been watching was it Nicole Kidman commercials? The best. Can you enjoy it on a screen like this or a screen like this? God. Well, I mean, that's kind of the feedback that I have for it too. Is there's films that I really love that I know will never be nominated, and that kind of plays into the whole game of the nomination circle. And if you really want to track down the Oscars a little bit, there is some kind of pay to play going on. Studios are, I think, was it Andrea Rosenbaum or whoever it was? She was in Mandy. They had a film that came out like a couple years back. They got in trouble for trying to pay to get into the Oscars. And I'm like, isn't that what everybody does? Why were they tripping about that?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, they paid to get her in. I'm like, I think that's what you do. Like, you literally pay the people to watch your movie.
I would assume there's like some kind of entrance fee, right? To like
they're like talking about it being bribes, and I think it was just like they can literally just like throw a film under the bus. They don't want to be part of it by just being like they bribed us. I'm like, that's what they do. Whatever. And like I saw in the lyric newsletter, they talked about the original purpose of the Oscars was like two ladies that like walk around back in the day and like hand out like these golden awards or something, like the Netherlands or something. That's when this all started.
Interesting.
That could have been made up too, because the lyric do have lots of storytellers. But let's talk about something that did ring really well this year and was a record breaker. An indie film won Oscars from Sean Baker. Mm-hmm. Now I haven't seen it, Nora, but have you seen it?
No, I haven't. Also missed that when I was in theater, but
right.
Can't wait to watch it after seeing kind of like, I didn't even know what it was about, but like I guess it's about sex workers.
Yeah, for sure. Which is a Sean Baker like staple.
Yeah. But I just liked the fact that they kind of shot it very like he was just a slice of life kind of thing, where he's like, we took all the cinematics out of it and just made it its own thing. It's like they can be free to be themselves on screen. I was like, okay, that's fine. I don't think I've seen, because Sean Baker has like 2 other big films, right?
Yeah, the 2 big ones that I remember for sure that I've seen is The Florida Project and Tangerine.
Oh, Tangerine.
Yeah, that's Tangerine. So I actually I just bought a copy of Florida Project because my partner hasn't seen it yet, and I'm like, if you've ever been poor, this movie nails it. Like, I think it's a really good representation of like being poor in an area that's literally right next to Disneyland. It's a good film.
Yeah, I can't remember.
But Tangerine was like Tangerine was shot on like an iPhone 5
by Lawrence Sher. Who did like Joker and like the
like you talking about like the new Joker.
The new Joker, with Joaquin, and he also shot like the Hangover movies, which is like really funny.
I know, right?
But,
cinematographer Sean here knows these cats. Yeah.
One of my favorites. Yeah.
Well, I mean, those movies were great, and I think Tangerine I'll pop on every once in a while because I think I like the story. Florida Project really rings home because of growing up in like a poor world, kind of like I did. I want to see Nora, and I've been like dying to see it. As soon as I saw it coming, I was like, "Oh shoot, Sean Baker!" Heck, I follow Sean Baker on Letterboxd, and now I bet you he's like, "I got to get off this." People are probably just blowing him up now. But the big thing is what he won. He won 4 Oscars, and that hasn't been done since like Walt Disney in like the 40s or something like that.
I think he was the first one to win that many as one person.
Yeah. No, I'm saying like Walt Disney did that, but it was for different projects. This was not only for one person, but like for one project.
Yeah.
Like that's like it, and it's an indie film, like a one-man show, just like you were talking about with Flow. So like, with that being said, I think that something that the Oscars is finally recognizing, and I think even the streaming services are doing it too, is that there is a need for indie film again. We might get a small renaissance after this. Like Sean Baker winning an Oscar, we might reboot like that early 90s indie cinema where Tarantino came from and Linklater came from, which would be great for cats like us because I would like to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that's about my favorite part about the Oscars this year.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm like watching Flow. That was cool. Like, because I watched it without even knowing it was nominated. And then after I watched it, found out that it was made in Blender, which, like, for those who don't know, it's like a free open source 3D software that now is basically just as good as like 3ds Max and Cine 4D and like Houdini and all these like high, like $4,000
I'm sure someone will fight you on that, but yeah. I think that Blender is the best for its money. Like,
yeah, I mean, like for like you can do just about anything you need to in it with no cost up front. Like, of course, yeah, like Octane and Houdini are going to be like fucking fantastic.
Like water creation and simulating hair. Like, those are the details that like nerds will pay attention to.
Pretty darn close in Blender, if not like finding some workaround. And if it's not there, it's open source, so people are figuring it out, and a new tool appears, the next iteration, and then it solves that issue.
Well, with this whole thing though, is like not only is it with Blender, but it's like a one-man army that created this film.
Pretty much.
Yeah, tell more about like the history.
Well, I don't know. Like I started watching like a talk by one of the head animators and I think the director, who was talking about the making of it basically, and he went to school for like 2D art, and like slowly got into 3D, and Blender was the reason he was able to, because it made it easy to do. So he started this project, and like over 8 years, he ended up making this movie. Like, you watch the credits, there's not very many people in it because there's no dialogue, and it's all hand animated, beautiful. It's very painterly. It looks like a painting come to life. Not quite like What Dreams May Come, but a little better in my opinion than What Dreams May Come.
I mean, that movie that has some age to it, I'll be honest. I watched it recently. Yeah. Well, that's really cool. It's all done in Blender. It took 8 years to make.
Yeah. And I saw somewhere that most of it was done on a laptop, which is cool. Because, like, you see these, like, big name studios, Pixar, Disney, whatever, have, like, whole studio spaces with the most powerful computers and, like, rows and rows of animators. And it's like, I think it was, like, and I don't know the exact number, but it's like less than 10 people worked on this movie. That's like, in terms of the animators. There's other people doing sound effects and score and stuff, but the animators were a very, very small team. I fell in love with that. I was like, whoa, like blown away. Like 2 very indie films won Oscars this year over
big budget
Disney
films
and stuff like that.
I mean, that's a very clear shift in what's happening in Hollywood right now.
Yeah.
Up until, it's whatever, the superhero movie's great. They did their thing. It's just like how the 90s had their big blockbuster action films. Mm-hmm. In the 80s, we were like, everybody wanted to be, dang it, the movie with Bruce Willis, Die Hard. I was about to say Get Hard. With Kevin Smith.
Get Shorty or
Get Shorty? But like everything's like that. And right now we had this massive push from like 2008 to pushing it all the way to like 2022, which is a long time. Usually films have like or genres or big actors have about a 10-year run. Mm-hmm. And then we're now at post superhero films, and yeah, there are still going to be massive fans. They're going to be putting these films out. They're going to not be as popular, so they'll kind of drop off the radar and something else is going to replace it. And I think it's a perfect time for indie film to make an appearance, with Sean Baker doing this and Flo doing that. And heck, some of these indie animations that were in the shorts that I saw too that won as well. I'm like, it was like all stop animation stuff too that everybody's wanting. And you can even fudge that now in Blender. So like, I think that we're wanting more animation that isn't just CGI to death. Mm-hmm. We're going to start seeing indie films that people are going to be doing stuff like what you're talking about with the 3D printer and like being able to print off and have physical things. Because what happens is, I've noticed every 10 years, 5 years, 7 years, is we peak out with something. Like we either peak out with indie film and then the blockbusters come and then it switches and then we switch it up. But in those peaks, right in the middle, when they cross over, you start seeing like the practical effects come back for just a second.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And that's like one of the reasons I really love like the A24 films, because they're a bigger production, but I feel like a lot of them do have that feel of older movies that did practical effects. Like High Life was a really beautiful, I thought,
beautiful and weird
sci-fi film,
yeah.
but all the spaceship shots were still like actual models.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
that's sick, and it's like this fun little indie film with Robert Pattinson in it.
Well, speaking of
that's what really inspires me is like there's still people out there doing stuff like that, and that's why I've gotten into it recently and like really want to pursue model making and prop making and stuff like that. So
yeah, indie sci-fi coming in hot like they did in the late 90s. I'm excited for it. So I'm really excited to see where it goes. And I mean, that's kind of our take on the Oscars. I don't really watch many of them. I usually wait for them to float to the top and we'll see them again. Mm-hmm. But I've watched a lot of other movies from terrible to great, which, you know, you're allowed to do and kind of fill that out. Something that I really appreciate is that there is now like weird things coming in. Like, for instance, a couple years back, maybe just like a year ago, there's a game that came out that made everybody want to watch Starship Troopers again, which is like a weird late 90s, like 1997 film. There was like a video game that was similar to it, so everybody's like watching that. So for some reason, I watched
Half-Life or something.
It wasn't Half-Life.
They have like antlions that look very much like the bugs.
Right? No, this was like a new game because I didn't recognize the name of it. I know Half-Life.
Yeah.
I know Half-Life. I've heard of Half-Life. But like there's some stuff like that coming in and like people wanting to see like, you know, more of that like practical stuff anyways. But I watched like Wild Wild West last night, like which at the time
Classic.
yeah, American Western classic. At the time, it just didn't ring well. I thought it was just like a bunk movie, but watching it again, it does a really good job of time stamping where we were in CGI, and because they had like basically robot trains and stuff. And people like made out of everything was steam powered.
Yeah. Is that Kenneth Branagh in that as the
lead as a villain?
Yeah, who
I can't remember his name, but I had to look him up last night because I didn't recognize him until he like took off all his beard and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I mean, I could pull up my letterbox right now. But yeah, like that and like Kevin Kline and Will Smith, they didn't necessarily work then, but watching it now, there's something about it that kind of works really well. Because they were both on a peak out because Kevin Kline was doing like, you know, like, was it like A Fish Called Walnuts, stuff like that, and Will Smith was coming in as being like this funny action star. And I think they were even coming off like Enemy of the State, which I think is an awesome film. I think that came out in 98, I'm guessing, because this was 99 that the Wild Wild West came out.
Yeah.
But anyways, going down the Will Smith hole, I guess, there.
I don't want to be doing that.
Yeah, don't be doing that. I'll end up getting slapped. But also, too, did you see that video of Will Smith, like, eating spaghetti? Like, he actually
CG.
did... No, he actually did a video of him eating spaghetti just because it got so popular. He did it, like, last year or whatever. Whatever.
Yeah,
Stuff.
AI videos. That's hilarious.
Well, yeah. So, Sean, tell me about a favorite indie film that you can think of right now that you really enjoy. We were talking about the creator and stuff like that. Is there any other sci-fis you can think of?
I don't know if creator is considered
Indie.
it's hard to know because they might have an indie feel, but it's still backed by like a studio. So off the top of my head, I don't necessarily know.
Was there any films you're excited that might be coming out this year? We did talk about Tron earlier for a split second.
Tron,
I think that's coming out.
Didn't even know that was a thing, so now excited about it.
Right.
Mickey
Well, there's
17.
Mickey 17.
Very excited.
I was going to bring that up because we were talking about Pattinson a second ago.
Yeah, one. I always confuse his name. Is it Bong Park Ho or June?
Bong Joon-ho.
Bong Joon-ho,
Yeah.
I do.
You got me there. I was like, wait,
yeah,
confusing me.
because there's a few directors from Korea that have very similar names,
Yeah.
and I always get them like mixed up. But
for sure, he's the current like reigning like Korean director that we all know. Yeah,
I mean Parasite.
Parasite. But do you remember The Host? Did you ever watch The Host?
Yeah.
I still got a copy. I freaking thought that movie was dope.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool stuff. Mickey 17. Have you seen anything about it?
I just seen trailer, like the short trailers on YouTube.
Well, so what it reminds me of is you remember Moon?
Yeah.
Oh man, loved Moon.
Yeah.
And if you know the premise of Moon, they kind of show it to you up front, but like that's what I feel like is like this like recycling, but with more of a comedy than like a super serious sci-fi.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, something along those lines, like Moon meets like I don't know, like Biodome or something, you know, silly like that.
Biodome.
I mean, it's terrible. It's terrible. You're like, what, dude? It's terrible.
Just Pauly Shore makes
Yeah,
an
just
appearance
yeah,
out of
just
nowhere.
yeah. He's like, "What's up, buddy?" Yeah, just the weasel comes in. Jeebus. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm trying not to watch a lot of it because I know it's going to be good.
Yeah.
And I've actually been really liking Robert Pattinson more
I mean,
lately. You know,
I mean, post the was it the Safdie brothers? Whenever he did Good Time. Did you ever see Good Time?
yeah.
That right there, I was like, all right, bro, that's the turn you needed to make to get out of like the get off the hooks of Twilight or whatever.
Yeah,
you know.
right, yeah.
Well, heck, speaking of like kid actors, I actually watched Jungle, which is that Daniel Radcliffe film. And man, he was.
Yeah.
It just came out like last year or something, but it's about like early '80s. This guy like disappeared into the Amazon.
Yeah, I think I've started that movie a couple times, but
Right.
never got past the opening because I always started too late. It's not that it wasn't interesting.
It's just like falling asleep.
Yeah, it's like, oh, like this looks cool, and I like started at like 9 o'clock, and
Well-
I'm like an old man and go to bed by 9:30.
Daniel Radcliffe, and I'm not sure if he did it or not, but like he's kind of a petite man, and you know, so he's like small and he's like doing this thing, and man, the difference between Pattinson and Radcliffe is that I don't know, Pattinson was able to hook up some really kick-ass indie, kick-ass directors, and Radcliffe hasn't fully disconnected. So when I was watching Jungle, he's doing his best to literally kill the Harry Potter. But dude, like I still watch. I'm like he's like throwing up and like you know like trying to get all gross and stuff, and I'm like okay, you're trying, but like you're still like
Yeah.
Harry Potter, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I did really, and I still do love Swiss Army Man.
Wait, Swiss Army Man was
love
a
that
really
one.
good one.
Such a weird, quirky movie, and Paul Dano is like one of my all-time favorites.
Well, the Daniels too, like they just nailed that
yeah,
movie.
and it's just gorgeous, fun concept. But have you ever seen Guns Akimbo?
I actually just got a copy of that movie. And I got it from somebody for free.
Yeah.
I need to watch that. It looks wild as hell.
Yeah, where he gets. If you haven't seen the premise of it, basically he's like this deadbeat, and I think the premise is as part of like his repercussion for not paying off his debts, he gets these guns literally bolted to his hands. So the whole movie, he just has guns akimbo, and like the camera movement is wild, and it's just like this weird, quirky, like I don't even know how to describe it. It feels like an 80s. Like 80s, I don't even know what I'm trying to say.
Is it cyberpunky?
Kind of, like, it just has like this that wackiness of like, you know, like 80s Jackie Chan films almost.
Oh,
you know,
okay,
like where like, everybody's like over the top, like the villain's like very over the top and like big thick leather.
Yeah.
And, like, you know,
Do you remember
crazy
Shoot 'Em Up? Do you
tattoos and
remember
stuff.
Shoot 'Em Up?
Yeah.
Does it kind of have that vibe where there's like too many people getting shot and lots of people, or like Hardcore Henry?
No, it's not as like dark and grimy as that. It has
Gotcha.
like a very bright, like kind of. I haven't seen it in a while, but I feel like it has like a Borderlands, like the new Borderlands movie kind of feel, but like actually a good movie.
So I was thinking about like how that Cyberpunk was a 2077 game came out, which kind of created like they started using like modern day like Tokyo instead of like 80s like future. And is that kind of what it's like?
It's kind of like that, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's very futuristic, but it just has that over the top like. Just 80s villain that has like the big spiky hair and like big chunky Doc Martin.
Did you see that movie Boy Kills World that came out with one of the Skarsgårds or whatever? That's like another one that had that vibe, like Borderlands and stuff. It came out like last year. Honestly, it kind of got buried because of some political stuff that happened. He did like The Crow too last year and stuff, so he was just doing a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah, I haven't seen the new
but like that's what that kind of reminds me of. Boy Kills World. Like it's a video game, but not.
Yeah, it feels very video game. That'd be a good way to put it.
Or like Scott Pilgrim versus the World, but like that's way more. That's way more comedic.
Yeah,
on purpose.
More arcade game feel, but not the same thing. Where it's just like the camera movements and it was a fun movie.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, getting into that realm too is talking about Tron that might be coming out too. Like, I'm pretty excited about that because they do one like every like 15 years. I feel like at this point, but that's a franchise that I absolutely love. It's not super popular with everybody, but I watched the second Tron recently again.
I haven't seen it since probably it came out. Really.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's one of those that I watch once a year, like Blade Runner or something like that. You know, I think it's a good one. That's a fun one, man.
Is it a continuation of
I think
the original movie, or is it like its own storyline within the Tronverse?
I'm going to guess that because I've only seen like them shoot like set shots, like Tron 3, and then like where the where the O is a 3. You know, it's like true 3 on like trend. Trend.
Everybody's on trend.
Everybody's trending. Right?
This is the future.
This is the future. Yeah, I'm guessing too, because where they were at in that one is they showed that the internet had taken over and there's like an online presence. And this one, I'm guessing AI is going to be the villain in this one.
Okay.
That's what I'm guessing. Instead of it being a copy and being like, Clue, it's probably going to be some kind of over-the-top AI that is actually going to try to take over, though. Like, they haven't fully crossed over into our universe yet.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be it. Maybe we're going to be walking amongst them like Ready Player One or something crazy.
Oh, yeah. That was a good movie, too.
That was a good one.
I like Ready Player One.
Yeah, I think that one got snubbed, too. The
book is really fun, and that's why I was excited. I'd read the book.
Oh, yeah.
Or audiobooked it.
I mean, it's... We don't have time to read books. We got to do edits and stuff, guys. But I think that was a fun one too to watch, and I've watched that a couple times in the last year. That's just Spielberg just knew what he was doing with just over the top references and stuff like that. Man, well, probably about that time here. I mean, that was a simple little convo about the Oscars, indie films, things that we're liking in movies and stuff. If there's anything you want us to talk about, or you heard anything we had to say about something that you'd like to see, or what Oscar films we should see, knowing that we love sci-fis that we might not have seen.
Yeah, or non-sci-fis, because I really want to see Brutalist.
Oh, Brutalist!
I haven't seen that. There's a few movies in there. I did see Amelia Perez was pretty cool.
Did you like it?
I didn't.
People are just not they're mad at that movie.
Yeah, some people, James Cameron was saying he watched it 3 times in a row because he loved it so much. But I think he just has a crush on Zoe.
I mean, he does, yeah.
From Avatar. But I watched it. I was like, it's fun. It's a weird way to have not a weird way, but a different way to have it wasn't even too dancey, songy musical, but I don't know. It was fun. But there's a few in there that I haven't seen that I really want to. But yeah. Cool. Let us know what your favorite was.
Yeah, let us know what your favorite was, and we'll fight about it later. Yeah. All right, I guess that's the end of this episode. Just go right here, I guess.
Okay. Yep.
Cool. All right, that was easy. I'm curious because I think we hit that right on there for 26 seconds. Hey, folks, that's how easy it is to do a podcast. Like, subscribe.
We're still rolling.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, I think I might have. Because I hit start stream.
Yeah.
But then it said select what stream, and it was after we did the intro, so we might have
just come in the middle of it.
But
whatever. Well, at least we're coming in hot. If somebody came into it, it'd just be us talking,
Exactly. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious when we go to watch that back, where we came in on.
Right.
All right. How are you doing? You want to jump right into the...
Yeah, I'm down with that.
The next thing?
Maybe have that other drink down there. I feel like we had a focus there, and we started trailing off towards the end, which was kind of good because it was the perfect time for it. So I think we need kind of another topic that you and I could probably hit on. We talk about Blender and stuff, so we could...
I didn't just put my phone in there.
I thought you did. No, you said it right now. You said it right there. I might go pee just real quick, just so I don't have to worry about it. Yeah. I'm kind of forcing peas out now, but...
I just want to make sure we're actually...
Yeah.
Going.
Actually streaming.
Yeah. Hey.
Yay! Hey! Hey, old Rennie. Renster. Yeah, we're not sponsored, but beer. Oh, wait, it's right here.
I keep finding myself looking at the screen, too, which is a problem.
Yeah, I keep looking over here to look at that, but then I'm not doing the best here. I've been letting the ads play. I've been letting it play through.
Anybody watching?
Yeah, just let those ads play through, guys. I know you don't like ads, but if you like us, let those ads play all the way through. All 7 minutes of it.
We finally got monetized. We're gonna make
this. We still got to celebrate on that.
We do. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's another movie I haven't seen is Beetlejuice.
Oh yeah, we saw. Tina and I saw that. It wasn't too bad. What's up, Miller?
All right, now that we're alone. Okay, no, we did good. It was actually streaming. For whatever reason, I thought it wasn't actually streaming when we started the stream. So, hi, Neil. Hey, Bubby. Yeah, but we are good. It is kind of interesting streaming to nobody, though. That's always a fun... I'm going to chat with my other YouTube account. So it looks like stuff is happening. No, we actually nailed the start. The other thing I forgot to do was start recording, so we're gonna have to use the sound off the mic for that first like couple cents of an intro, and then
it started recording.
Switch over to these things. But
Okay.
with the audio enhancing, it shouldn't be too much of a difference.
Sweet.
But yeah, we did start because I do walk over and start the camera.
Let me see here.
Now we have a pup in here. So.
Cool. Let me send a message out to the world.
I think I migrated too a little bit. There we go. I think even you could probably scoot just
I probably
smidge.
I probably scooted in here a little bit.
For whatever reason, I feel like this is like the hardest framing I've ever done in my life. Trying to get these things to look okay. But I think it's just because I'm on camera and I just feel awkward in general.
Well, let's think of a topic here. I mean,
Hot topic?
we could, for some reason we could do this, but I don't think you're going to be, it'd be kind of a one-sided conversation. We'd be talking about like the state of film in Colorado. That'd be a deeper dive.
Yeah.
Do you want me to just pull up movies on my letterbox and just talk about movies? What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like whenever we start talking about movies, it always ends up getting somewhere. Yeah, it comes in here and now he's just laying by the door.
There you go.
Like, please, God, let me out of this. One thing I have been watching on the Disney app, also known as Disney Plus, for those out there,
For all you kids.
is the basically like the documentary series on how Industrial Light and Magic started.
Oh, really?
Fucking fascinating.
Oh, man, I gotta check that out.
Yeah, it's really good.
Do you have Disney? You said that you're watching that on? I don't have Disney, so I've just been like...
Well, yeah, recently, this is kind of just like a weird behind-the-scenes cut, but like, so I was paying for Max because I love like things like White Lotus and like Dune and stuff like that was on there. And it's also like incorporates the History Channel, so I watched a lot of like
really?
Gold Rush and stuff like that when
I think I heard about that
when I'm editing.
Yeah.
But then I was also paying for Hulu. I was doing no ads on Max and ads on Hulu. And then I was using Marty's Disney, but it recently kicked me off. So I was like, well, fuck, I've been watching like Simpsons to fall asleep to, and then like, you know, things like Lightyear, which we talk about Lightyear. But then I saw that there's like a bundle for all three, Hulu, Disney, and Max, for $16.
Instead of it being like, what, $10 a piece?
Well, it was $16.99 for Max and $10 for Hulu.
Oh my God!
And then another $10 for Disney separate.
So you get $16.99, you get all three?
All three.
You get all three, Sean?
Yeah.
Oh my God!
Hashtag not sponsored.
Hashtag not sponsored. Yet.
But I was like, fuck, like I was paying that much just for Max. So like
you're like, fuck it, I'm already
so
saving money.
I'm in the ads game, but
I'm in the ads.
it's just it's too hard to have.
I mean, once you get monetized, it's so hard not to just enjoy ads so much.
It's just like I'd love to have no ads, but it's like also between this and all the stuff we pay for the company side of things, I'm like I have so many subscriptions for like Adobe and Artlist and all this kind of stuff. So I have to, but I write off all of the membership stuff for streaming because it's research and development.
You hear that here first, tax collectors.
You can't make movies without watching movies, okay?
Got a loose neck today. Okay, I got something we can talk about. We'll get into, but we get rolling here for
hot takes on Disney Plus.
Hot take Disney Plus +2. All right, let me get this timer set up. All right.
I don't know what these are.
Those
Oh,
are.
multi-stream. Okay. That's
Oh,
interesting.
you
can
can
set up multiple channels to stream to.
Oh, like say if you have like a Nerd Rat, then we have like a Nerd Rat Plus, like Disney
Yeah,
Plus.
yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
We got a Nerd Rat
maybe that's how
Hulu.
you could do. Yeah, like the membership thing.
Yeah, it's the membership thing, maybe.
This is a lot we have to figure out. We haven't really.
We're learning.
Yeah.
You get to see us learn, everybody. Belching over here.
Well, I keep getting this like warning that our bit rate's super high.
Why? What's that bitrate ripping?
I don't know.
Huh.
I don't remember having it that high, but I don't know.
Because it's so high.
I don't even have like an option to. Who knows? It seems to be working fine, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. Okay.
All right, let's roll on it. I'll hit start on this bad boy. And yeah. All right, let me know when you're rolling. Okay, perfect. All right, that's our timer. Hot take. Pull your giant out.
Pull my giant what? I feel like I have this kind of slouch so I don't look like I'm towering. I feel like we're basically the same size, but for some reason...
I think it might be how I'm positioned, because I'm like trying not to put my heels on the...
Oh, there we go, yeah, because I'm like leaning forward.
Yeah, and I'm like...
Your back. Yeah.
Okay.
Mini Sam all over again.
All right, let me pop this. Why don't you intro one of these, Sean?
I kind of like the consistency of doing it, and I remember to record, so that's good.
There you go. Okay, all right, well, I'll just pop off here.
Pop the fuck off.
Desk pop! Anyways.
Name the movie.
Name that movie right now. In the thing. Whatever this is, name it. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Rat's Nest. I'm Jesse.
And I'm Sean.
We are here to talk to you about stuff, things and stuff about filmmaking. And we are just kind of throwing topics up in the air today. So what I'm doing, Sean, right now is I just pulled up my letterbox to just kind of look at some of the movies that I've been watching. You know what I've been getting on a kick of? Is watching absolutely terrible documentaries about like cryptozoology, like Mothman, like the Boggy Creek Monster.
Sounds about right.
That sounds about right. I love that garbage, dude. There's just literally this production company called like Small Town Monsters that just makes these. If you're watching this Small Town Monsters, they are hilariously bad. They're like, they're not even giving you new information. They're just like, hey, we should make one about Mothman. And they're just like, hey, there's a book. Yeah, they just like tell you about the book that I've read like 20 times. Which makes me think that maybe we should just like pop off of one of those. Dude, Tubi's eating up that stuff right now.
Yeah.
You know?
We do a lot of documentary style shooting, so it wouldn't be that far-fetched to like make it a long format instead of a 5-minute.
Dude, I've seen some of the labs they're popping on people. It's like some of those like recording devices you got at Radio Shack like 40 years ago. I'm like, what are we doing here? But you know what? They are chasing down some people that I've never heard interviews from, but they're just still just saying the same thing they just said in the paper years and years ago. But in my opinion, something that hasn't been touched on very much in the film world is cryptic stuff. They've tried it with a few things like, for instance, a really good version of it would be like Shape of Water, where you take like a cryptid creature and create a love story with it. Yeah. But there isn't much where like it's, you know, like raining blood or it's raining fish, or you see like a dimensional rip where creatures come in that isn't just like aliens coming from another place. No one talks about interdimensional beings yet. We're still stuck on like, you know, aliens coming from space instead of like dimensions and stuff.
Yeah.
So I think that's something I want to dive into when it comes to like sci-fis. If we, you know, get to that point, you know?
Yeah.
What do you think? Anything ripping on that?
Yeah, I mean, I do really like that genre, but yeah, like you're saying, I feel like there is a kind of a lack of,
right.
There's like things that almost, I guess like with like Cloverfield kind of talk on it, like, so there's like a, I don't know, different take on it, but it still feel like it's still aliens coming.
Yeah.
It's not like Hellraiser where they're getting like summoned from hell.
Cenobites come from hell.
You know, like, yeah.
Well, and it's like even addressing stuff like the Aleister Crowley theory, where he opened a dimension that let the Greys come through, which is the theoretical like aliens that we see now. And now the U.S. government is starting to release UAPs, which is just a different term for UFOs. You know, it just seems like something that we should be diving into. But for some reason, It's like UFOs are real, and we're all like, I'm just worried that I'm not going to be able to feed my family. So like, it's kind of it's like
there's
no
more
one gets,
pressing issues.
yeah, there's more pressing issues. Like, oh my God, ET. They're like, yeah, but is he gonna take all the Reese's? Like, that's all I'm worried about. So I mean, I'm ready for that time period to come where people want to see that stuff. But
Yeah.
I mean, right now, what everybody's eating up and transitioning into like the indie world is making stories that everybody can relate to right now.
Mm-hmm.
You know. Just like the Oscars, those films that won indies are a little bit more relatable because of like where we're at in society.
Yeah.
You know, so I mean,
I had something to say and I left it.
that's what I get for I just outrun Sean here. You got to just jump in.
It's also a topic that I'm not like super
Yeah, right.
knowledgeable about, like cryptozoology stuff, but
Yeah.
I do find it interesting and fascinating.
Well, like just like is something as simple as like how you and I have had conversations about how to make better like spaceships or better like sci-fi themes.
Yeah.
Like we like to do like deep space traveling to other planets or like future sci-fi stuff. Like for instance, that short that you're working on that we're trying to get off the ground a little bit. It's more of like a distant future stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that maybe we should just knock on that door a little bit. I'm not saying that we make another friggin' Mothman movie, but there's some goofy stuff that we could pull out of. We could just take some of those concepts and just run with them, you know?
Yeah, I think that'd be super fun.
Yeah.
And then explore like, because obviously we've never done monster movies, and do something like a monster movie would be a lot of fun, especially if we could pull it off practically. But
Right.
it'd be a fun reason to get people that like specialize in that on Blender or whatever 3D software, because people love making monsters, and if we can incorporate like some of their designs, that'd be a really cool way to collab with some of these people on like YouTube and stuff. So if you're out there,
I mean, we're always something too is we really want to do practical stuff.
Yeah.
So if we can make some practical monster outfits or like cool stuff like that we can lean into.
Yeah. That's what inspires me probably the most. Like CG stuff is very cool, but there is something so magical and fun about doing it in camera,
right?
Or as much as you possibly can,
right? And in that realm, and I know it's Oscar season and stuff like that, but like it's like if you watch every kind of film from your considered like blockbuster films up to your like award-winning films, all the way down to like 80s schlock sci-fi, early 90s just terrible sci-fi movies, you start noticing things like that terrible sci-fi movie from the 90s, they didn't shoot it like Interstellar. You know, they shot it knowing like where they're like, well, we need to just kind of stay in this like campy vein.
Yeah.
You know, they're not trying to be any more than they're trying to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's something important to know about filmmaking is like, yeah, you might literally, you know, be down on some of these films that like, it's no Brutalist, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
But like those films are good because it's if you thought about it as a genre, Oscar films are their own genre, and then you've got like, you know, the Toxic Avenger or anything like that. So like, and people love those films. Like I'll see it all the time. You'll get on like Rotten Tomatoes, and it'll be like some film like the critics are like, this is garbage, 0%. But then like the audiences loved it, and it's like 80, 90%, and it's just garbage that people love.
Yeah.
So you can't shame it.
Nostalgia or just like it did something to their brain that tickled the thing.
Right.
And like to go kind of into that, I was just mentioning. Started watching this documentary series on Disney about the making of.
I'm so sorry, Sean.
Trying not to move for the cut.
Zip.
Documentary series on like the beginnings of Industrial Light and Magic, ILM, who, if you don't know, is George Lucas's like effects house that basically created everything we know about effects as it stands today.
I mean, a lot of famous directors even came from that time period. I think it was like David Fincher was doing like matte painting and then started a company like that, which invented like Michael Bay. Like it's so crazy where so many people have come from.
And
that.
like so, like it starts with like I don't know. This is kind of a tangent because I had a point with what you're talking about campy sci-fi's, but like just to go real quick, like George Lucas working a behind-the-scenes camera for Francis Ford Coppola on one of his films, and he had the opportunity to make a film, and he did 1138, THX 1138, and it flopped because people were like, "What the fuck is this?
What is this weird shit?"
I actually really loved that movie.
Oh, yeah.
Like, probably my favorite Lucas film, which is funny because, like, I mean, Star Wars is great, but like THX has such a cool style. It flopped, and like it, like, kind of hurt George Lucas's like image, or not his image, but like his self-image. So Coppola was like, "Hey, prove to me that you can do a comedy," and that's where American Graffiti came from.
Oh, really? So that's where that came from?
Coppola helped him make that film. So he spent like a year shooting that and getting that done to prove to Coppola that he had the stuff.
Yeah.
And that, like, the world loved.
Oh, yeah, American Graffiti is legendary.
And so from there he started working on Star Wars. But like his whole thing was like, there's so many things like cool or not cool runnings.
There's Cool Runnings. Classic.
How what Logan's Run or.
Like about Logan's Run,
is that the
George Lucas didn't direct that? But
no,
that's like the '77 one where they like anybody
Logan's
over
Run,
18 like dies.
Yeah,
like the Island. You remember the movie Island? It's kind of a Logan's Run.
Yeah,
they're all wearing white.
So he's like talking about movies like that, and like Flash Gordon and stuff. And
yes,
like, I want to do as opposite to that as I possibly can.
Right,
and that's where he started working on things like Star Wars. But yeah, like so like what we're talking about, like. Taking that, yeah, I had a point. I had a point, and I lost it because I talked too much about the. Fuck.
Well, I mean, maybe you'll find it, but I want to point out something that is very clear. Like you talk about Logan's Run, you talk about even THX has that. But then, like any of those sci-fis during that time period, that late 70s, it's like late 60s, the late 70s, early 80s sci-fi look is kind of where we went in our own future. Mm-hmm. Like I'd like to point out that like sci-fi predicts its own future. So like right now we're in a turning point where we're going to start like echoing that cyberpunk vibe. But like George Lucas with like the light, what was it?
Industrial Light and Magic.
Industrial Light and maggots.
Which
Duggan Might maggots. Is really awesome for that, like creating all this stuff that has come from, with David Fincher and all these things like that.
Yeah. Well, like just the amount of inventing they did just to get the shots was hilarious. Like they spent half the budget developing all the camera. They literally built the cameras and the motion control rigs to shoot the space stuff. And George Lucas was in England shooting all of the actual on-set stuff for everything else of Star Wars. Finished that up, came back to see what they did for the dogfight scenes, and they showed him 2 shots. He was like, just like furious.
He's like, what the
They spent $1 million
making this?
and only had 2 shots, and it was 6 months until it was supposed to be released.
Oh my god.
So it's like, it's just a really interesting like period. But yeah, I just love that the fact that they saw what like sci-fi was, let's do something completely different, and then just invented the way to shoot it, like, is so inspiring to me. And that's like one of the things, like, doing stuff practically and in camera, it just endlessly inspires me. Like, working on a CG shot and modeling is cool, but the fact that guys sat in a sweaty warehouse literally no AC. They talk about they had like road cases that they would fill with water and all get in it to like cool off and then jump back and like
Jesus.
So it's just like this ragtag team that ended up making one of the most iconic films of all time.
Right.
But it's like they just had this passion and this drive, and they're all like, it's just. I mean, they didn't have any choice at that point to do it all on camera, but that's like kind of my mindset with like AI and stuff becoming so prevalent and so. I just hate that it's taking over, like the fact that like Coca-Cola is making AI commercials.
Yeah,
like,
that's pretty hilarious.
It's like the biggest company, like drink company, and they're not even paying people to make commercials anymore, or at least like the couple run that they did. So like I've taken this year, like I'm gonna go backwards. I've been watching Adam Savage's YouTube channel and just learning as much as I can about prop making, and like I'm so excited to pursue stuff to do in camera and just see what we can do with all of today's technology that we have, like the Red and Blender and stuff like that.
And I think that's just another point of where we're going with this renaissance. Like we always get to too perfect and then we want to get it dirty again. So like that's where we're going with indie film right now. So like pointing out where Lucas was changing the game in the late 70s. and where Sean Baker literally winning the Oscars this year and kind of probably making people more interested in indie filmmaking, that right there is a good combination for us to be able to do some stuff with our own channel and be able to do some sci-fi stuff. I think too, and also too, to point out here, someone mentioned, going back to doing like weird movies. They are making a Mothman Prophecy sequel, it looks like too.
Cool.
But there's a question here that says, what is your favorite real or fake looking prosthetic prop that we've seen in a film?
Okay.
Well, that's a tough one. Like, it really depends on what you're talking about. Do you have one off the top of your head you can think of?
One of my favorite fake ones it's not, and obviously all prosthetics are fake, but ones that like
like CGI or practical?
Practical, like in camera. It's from Bad Taste.
Oh man,
like a deep cut of
Peter
Jackson, but it's his prosthetic of himself throwing up.
Yeah,
like,
and
the weird dude.
Yeah.
And so he made like a whole robotic like mouth movement thing that just like spilled like. It looked like split pea soup or something like that. Yeah. But it's like still one of my all-time favorites because he like took it upon himself to make it.
Yeah.
And that whole film took him 4 years on weekends. Because his friends only had time on the weekends to act in it.
Yeah.
And he did all the miniatures, all the shooting, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's just like one of those classic just kind of terrible looking, but I don't know. That instantly popped to my mind when we read that. Question.
I got one that popped in my mind now that you mentioned that, which was like, did you ever see there was Death Proof and then they had Planet Terror?
Yeah.
Remember Planet Terror? Yeah, but like whenever he throws up and like that tube of puke comes out and then hits the floor and then a bunch of tubes shoot off it. Like, do you remember that?
I don't remember that. No.
That was really dope, but it was because I was remembering what you were saying, plus the fact that Thing, like the movie The Thing.
No, I literally was going to say that's my good prosthetic weird prop.
There's and the thing, and going into that too is there's
the thing.
The thing is, well, there's also body horror. Like we're talking body horror a little bit, which honestly, The Substance, which was up for an Oscar, and I think they got something like a best original screenplay or something like that.
They got best hair and makeup.
Best hair and makeup.
Demi Moore's, yeah.
Yeah, that was really cool, and it's really hard for.
I haven't seen it yet, unfortunately. But.
Oh, it's okay. What it is now is like it's okay. I've watched it for you like twice. The thing is about that too is like there's body horror that's really hard to watch, and then there's body horror that's like really done really well and it makes you want to watch it. Now, The Thing, The Substance, and a few other of these films Substance gets a little rough towards the end to a point. Like all of it's like a Cronenberg vibe,
Oh yeah.
But like I would say that for this year, Substance did a great job of doing like Reanimator vibe sort of stuff. It did a lot of 80s throwbacks. And if The Substance didn't come out and have like the message it had, it would just be like B-movie schlong. Like it's the scene in the restaurant where they're talking and there's like Dutch angles and they're like yell talking to each other. I'm like, dude, this is like if it was like a sci-fi movie in like 1997. They're like, there's a double. They're just yelling at each other. I'm like, oh my God, this is weird. But I think that a movie that I've seen that is entirely, it's created by the best CG artists of the 80s. Like they did The Thing. They did like any body horror film for Cronenberg and stuff like that. There's a movie called Society. Have you heard of this movie? Dude, it is one of the most visually disturbing movies, which means it's done so well. Like the premise is like non-existent. It's just like there's like an orgy happening at like a rich people's house, and these kids show up, and you get there, and the orgy just descends into them like melting into each other, and there's these really intense images of like people melting and like having sex, but they're not having sex. They're just kind of like at one point some dude's like sticking his hand through this guy's body, and the tearing of his face looks so real. You're like, ah, like it's like, and the beauty of that movie too is they're like, we're just like, it's a bunch of CG artists. They're like, we're just gonna do like the most fucking crazy shit we can do. It's 1989. Let's just crush it. Like to the point that the end of the movie, and if you haven't seen it, I'm not going to ruin it for you. They have one big effect at the very end that they do, and I feel like they were waiting to do that effect, and then the movie just ends. Like they're like, all right, we got to get that last effect in. All right, it's done. And I'm like, there was no conclusion to this movie. It was just gory and beautiful and terrifying all at once, and I still have like weird like dreams about this movie, because I think I saw it when I was a really young kid. Because when I saw it again, I was like, "Oh my God, I've been having those dreams." It's that terrifying, and that's probably the best like realistic version that I am scared of. Like that's like Do you have anything like that? Is there any like body horror or anything like that practically where you watch and you remember and you're like, oh my God, that was like gut wrenching, like that good. Like as a filmmaker, it's hard to get there anymore.
Yeah.
But dude, there's some where you're like, oh.
yeah. I mean, like one I watched recently would be like, I just had the name of it. The Viggo Mortensen Crimes of
Crimes of the Future. I haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, that one has some.
That's
really,
a Cronenberg film.
Yeah, it has some like shots where it does make you very uncomfortable, but it is all in camera,
which is beautiful. Which is
because like if you haven't seen it, like Viggo Mortensen's character can, he has this ability to like grow unique organs, and his partner is a professional tattooist, so they do these like. Underground live shows where she goes in and tattoos his organ while it's still inside him. Then they pull it out of him, and it's like this piece of art that they both created together.
Yeah,
and I'm paraphrasing quite a bit, but like
that's
some
a pretty
of those
good
shots
way
like were like, oh my, like the sound design and like just I mean, I love Viggo. His reaction to like the pain, but also getting like the sick pleasure out of it.
Dude. He's just got the face for it.
Yeah.
Like,
so that'd be one I could think of that was like I watched recently. But I mean,
that's
like a lot of the older '80s, '90s like body horror stuff like that. Watching it now, I don't really. I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like it's like fantastic effects, but like. If I watched those, if I were like kid,
you'd be like,
I could see that being like terrifying. But like I was never subject to that. Being a nice Christian boy growing up.
No one's throwing on.
I had like
video drone.
I had,
or anything.
Fox and the Hound was like my go-to.
Oh yeah, which is still a sad movie, bro. That's
sad.
very sad. I watched that recently. I was like, oh my God.
That's probably why I love the moody, sad aesthetic.
Yeah, right. You're like, this dog, just shoot the fox, bro. Sorry if we ruined that, but. But with those body horror movies, there's some really intense ones. I was having a conversation with somebody recently to distinguish them between body horror, like torture films. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because there's a realm like so. Like for instance, there's a crossover between in Saw where it's body horror but it's torture. Mm-hmm. But then like you get into like Hostel, which is just all torture.
I was literally just about to bring up Hostel.
Yeah, dude. We were talking about how Hostel like. Honestly, I watched that movie a bunch when I was younger. Like it was like a nice, tasteful, like torture movie. Like when they're cutting the eyeball and like the toe and stuff. But it's like so gruesome and like you like the sound. You're like, oh my God. But like we watched that a bunch growing up, and that is considered body horror torture in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like when it's just torture films, like it gets a little weird for me. Like it's not really that. Like I'm just like everything's torturing them. Like almost like what is it? Salo. Like that gets a little repetitive. Or you're like, okay, all right. If you haven't seen that movie or
100 Days of Salo.
Salo. I keep trying to say Salo because it's Salo. But it's 120 days of whatever. There's that, and then there's like the Siberian. Like there's these like notorious films, or if you watch even ABCs of Death, like the first one, like 75% of those films are like South Korean or Japanese filmmakers that are making some weird stuff. Like at one point, there's like a masturbation competition. Like it gets wild and
twisted minds.
Yeah, it's like it's just like it's like it's something my mom would, or like The Audition. You ever see The Audition?
Yeah.
Ooh, like there's some needles in that one where you're like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I figure that.
Yeah, and it's like dude. You're like, so like that's where it crosses over to like torture and body horror, like kind of goes together on that. But man, I just can't really get into the torture. And there's some body horror. So like I think when it rides the line of torture and body horror, it nails it. Like it does a good job for me. But when it goes extreme the other directions, I'm like, what are we doing here? Are we just doing this for the sake of doing it?
Yeah.
Like I don't know. Like maybe I'm just an old fart.
No, yeah. I mean, I used to love the Saw movies quite a bit. And then as I got more into filmmaking, kind of it's like why am I watching these movies? And they just got so I don't know. The first one was still pretty good. Like Carrie Elwes killed it, but the later ones just got so weird and out there.
I watched all of them one weekend or something again. I'm like, man, they just start falling off like hard.
Yeah.
Like even the torture scenes, you're like, man, did they even like buy meat? Like was it just like somebody's bones getting ripped out? You're like, it's not very believable. Maybe I'm just jaded by the first 5 of these movies I watched.
Yeah. It didn't need to be 8 of them or whatever.
They're 10. I think there's 10. They had 10 come out. They're like, this is the greatest Saw movie ever made. I haven't watched it yet, but like if you watch it apparently and you're not like a huge Saw fan, you're like, yeah, it's another Saw movie, bro.
I feel like I tried and I just didn't, I was just like lost interest, but
yeah, it's whatever. I mean,
tastes change.
I mean, out there in the world, do you guys got a favorite body horror film? Hey, what's going on there? Miss Trenchbull is actually a beautiful woman under all that makeup. Yeah, she is. She's very sweet. Yeah, I think that's a reference to The Substance, I believe. Right? Is that?
Miss Trenchbull, that's from, not Madeline,
Matilda?
Matilda.
Oh, we were watching Matilda the other day. That's why she said that.
Yeah, I was like, I knew it's not Madeline, but it's very close to Matilda.
Yeah, right? Very body horror. Matilda and its body horror references and stuff like that. Yeah, man, we should talk about like kids' movies that were really like messed up too at some point because it gets there.
Matilda definitely.
Well, dude, we watched it the other day and she's like throwing kids by their hair and like making a kid and like breaking that plate over his head. Like I was watching it. And like having like flashbacks, like oh my god, I remember watching this too many times.
Yeah, well, like essentially like the Iron Maiden, like
oh yeah, that's what I told.
Spikes.
Jumping up, and I told my partner, I was like, "Isn't that an Iron Maiden?" She's like, "What's that?" I'm like, "Well, it's a made up like medieval device.
It's a real medieval device, but it's like fucked up.
It's just needles and a door, like you just get shut in there. Yeah, that kind of stuff and all that. It's pretty hilarious. Oh man. Oh, the witches! Have you seen the witches where they're at the end of the movie where they all are like rats? Have you seen that?
No.
Oh my god! Another body horror film that needs to be addressed. But I mean,
I saw was it The Witch?
Oh, there's The Witch, but there's The Witches. It was like from 1989, and it had like Cher as like the lead witch.
Okay.
But then they did a remake of it recently with Anne Hathaway. And they CGI it, but like there's a big closing scene. I don't necessarily want to ruin it if anybody hasn't seen it, but it gets like in the original one, like it's a kid's movie, and in the ending scene, you're like terrified. You're like, it like messes you up. You're like, oh my god, I should not be watching this. Like at that time period when parents would just set you down in front of a movie, they said it was a kid's movie, and watch it, and then you'd leave the movie being like, ha ha ha. And they're like, was it good? You're like,
I think so.
It was terrifying. I'm gonna have nightmares. Like, everybody has nightmares. Go work the mill. Like, I don't know, what am I from the 1920s? Like, what? Anyways, let's just wrap this bad boy up here. We're nerd about movies. If you got any body horror favorites you want us to talk about, is there anything you want us to see out there? Let's do it. I guess thanks for tuning in. Maybe cut it right there. Cool. See if that stayed all the way through.
Yeah, I mean, we can push it a bit farther too if you want, but I feel like that's a pretty good natural stopping point.
Yeah. Well, I knew we'd eventually get into something, but like talking about body horror is a good
one.
And
I give the camera just a break because it's...
That's cool. I can use the bathroom again.
Yeah. It can take a second to... Yeah, it's like give me the temperature thing.
It's like it's too hot.
Which I rarely get on that, so that's impressive. But we have been rolling for about an hour straight.
So we're done with our podcast regulars. So we want to think of like what would be a good like members only thing.
Yeah, members only. YouTube After Dark.
YouTube.
No, I think once you get back, we can sign off for this.
Like the live stream here.
Yeah.
We could probably do it right now, really, before I disappear. Then we can go do our thing here. Cool. All right. Well, see, we're making it easy, guys. We're gonna try to be coming in here for these things every Wednesday. That's the goal. Like try to do it in the evening so we can get some more people tuning in. But if you like this, check out the pages, share this, tell your friends. We'll get better, more diligent about telling you guys.
We have like a handful of other podcasts already, so if you like this one, go ahead and check out the other ones.
Yeah.
Like, subscribe. Yeah, like I said, every Wednesday around 5 o'clock is what we're shooting for. But we do work for a living. We don't do this full time.
Not yet.
We might shift those days and just follow us, and we'll let you know when we're doing this stuff. So.
Exactly. All right, y'all. Peace out. We'll see you next week. We'll let you know. Hashtag not sponsored yet.